a lot of people in their life already have their life planned out for them by the time they enter school at a young age. And they may not even know it yet, but they are blindly following something without taking a step back to ask themselves, is this really what I want to do with my life? I can go over this cycle of thinking quickly, but at least where I'm from, the main cycle is you go to school, you go to college, get a stable desk job, get married, and then have kids. And while there isn't anything wrong with this, people expect you to follow this path perfectly all the way through, or they look at you differently, and they look at you like you aren't normal or as capable as they are. At this age, you need to do this. At this age, you need to have done this. That's pretty much how the way people think. Like, you need to have, by the age of 30, you need to have gotten married. By the age of 35, you need to probably have started to have kids. But it's like this biological clock that we put in our minds because society puts it into our minds. And it's not really even living at that point if all you're doing is getting through life not to fulfill you and make you feel better about how your life's going, but to get to this next step of checking a box. That's the reason why a lot of people settle in relationships when they get older, because they realize, oh, hey, I need to start getting married. Oh, hey, I need to start having kids so I can look better in a social light or in a social setting because of the way society is made. And there's few people in the world who are able to break away from this path and succeed. And just because it's so few doesn't mean the path is the wrong answer or a bad decision. And the reason that is because in our brains, every single one of us, or almost every single one of us, would choose comfort over making a difference. Let's just say I asked you this question. Would you rather have a really good and comfortable life, but you aren't really changing society or helping society at all? Or would you rather live a hard, stressful, and bad life, but you made a positive impact on society? Most people, whether they would want to admit it or not, would choose to live a good, comfortable life that had zero impacts on the benefit of society. And I mean, I would probably choose that life myself. But the reason that is because as humans, we like to have our routine. We like to stay on this path given for us because we don't have the confidence or the ability to stray away and feel like we can do something different than what has already been done for many, many, many generations before us. That's why it's called this cycle. And the reason that we just stick in this cycle is because of how selfish we are, as I mentioned in a previous video. We'd rather see the higher likelihood of success by sacrificing our individuality than stray away from the path that was given to us in an attempt to build something new for ourselves or something that could actually make a difference for society. Going back to the cycle, people want you to be the same as them so they can relate to you. If you had a bad day at your desk job, well, they've definitely had bad days too at their desk job, so they can relate to you and therefore will like you more. If you haven't had these experiences by a specific age, people will think you're behind or that you're a loser. Or if you've had it too early, people start to become jealous of you and make excuses for themselves as to why they haven't reached that position on the path yet. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is there is no winning, because you will always be perceived negatively by somebody you know. And people get stressed out about needing to have this next box checked in their life, like getting married or having kids or having a place to live by this certain point in their life. Like, when I'm out of college, I need to get this specific job in order to get me this amount of money, whether I like that job or not. Most of the time, you're not going to like that job. Same thing with going to college. If you don't, where I'm from, if you don't go to college, or if like you're looked down upon, you're not taken as seriously. And while college is very, very beneficial, it sucks to live in a society where we pretty much have become reliant on it to give us openings to jobs and other opportunities that we wouldn't otherwise have without college. And life isn't going to go always as planned. So if you have this certain like plan in your head, a lot of people don't have a plan, but like subconsciously in the back of their head they do. And they kind of just have it, they're feeling in the back of their head like, hey, I'm going to do this by this age. They may not be constantly thinking about it by, working toward it, but by the time that they're that age, they just expect to have this plan just come into place. And I think that's the issue with the way a lot of people think, is that they choose the path because they can't create a path for themselves. And you should have a plan or direction in your life, but you should never expect it to not ever change. And you shouldn't stress as much about it if you see a different outcome or a delayed outcome as people normally do. Also, let's just say you've gone through life, you've done the entire path, and that makes you an average individual. Even though most people say like they want to be above average, or they want to do something that most people won't ever do, or something, or they want to have this sort of mental or physical strength that most people can never achieve in their lives, or won't ever achieve in their lives, they end up just settling with average. And while like there's nothing wrong with that, it just shows that you don't really care about really wanting to push yourself. And if you end up trying to push yourself and you still get into this average point, then at least you've tried. And I think a lot of people give up before they've actually truly tried. Like they'll try for a little bit to separate themselves, become successful in their own way, but then they give up, which is why people say, hey, people die in their 20s, because when you're past your 20s, you're just stuck in this loop, and you're just stuck where at this 9-to-5 job, you're stuck having the same routine as everybody else, but there's little room for you to be able to really experiment anymore, because you're not as young and you're not as able to look at life in a different way. There's a reason why older people are more stubborn than younger people. It's because older people have lived life the same way for a longer period of time than we have, people my age and people around me that are my age. And I think that's one thing we got to start looking at from like an outside perspective is we shouldn't have a period of time where we are just stuck. And while obviously that's going to happen to pretty much every single one of us, as it does, it's just part of life because of the way society has fit us into our role. I think we should always have this open-mindedness. And I think people need to be more open-minded, more willing to try new things, more willing to hear out other perspectives, because if not, we're just going to become more and more divisive, and we're going to become more and more repulsed and disgusted by one another because we can't accept the fact that there is a different way than this one set path, or like this one set path in your specific area or community that has been laid out for you that you must follow, or that you are very much pressured to follow, because straying away from the path would most likely not end up in a result that would be as successful as following the path. Thank you for watching.